While helping my parents renovate their house, something I thought would bring us closer, I stepped into the garage for some tools and heard my father say, in a voice colder than I'd ever heard from him, "I still can't believe how useless he is. We need to cut him out of the will before he drains us dry." My mother, without missing a beat, replied, "Already working on it. My lawyer says we can even take back the business loan." But before we dive into the full story, please take a second to like this video and comment below where you're watching from. And whatever you do, stay till the end. The ending will absolutely shock you. What you're about to hear isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a story of awakening. Of finding strength in the most unexpected place, the silence between words, the weight behind glances, the moment you finally decide to stop begging to be seen. In that garage, between the rusted shelves and forgotten memories, I didn't just overhear a conversation. I heard my childhood implode. I heard years of effort, of love given unconditionally, of silent sacrifices, reduced to a punchline between two people who should have been my safe haven. I stood there, heart jackhammering in my chest, mind racing. There wasn't a scream. There wasn't a confrontation. Just cold clarity. And that clarity? It was the start of something they never expected, me fighting back. I froze for a split second. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't meant to overhear it, but there it was, raw, brutal truth, spoken in private, never meant for my ears. I returned with the tools, wearing a flawless smile I didn't feel. My hands kept working, steady and precise, but inside, something fractured. 3 days later, my phone was flooded with 47 desperate messages begging me to call them back. But I already knew who they were. Funny how it works, isn't it? You think you're building a life, brick by brick, and then you discover your foundation, your family, has termites. Let me back up a bit. My name's Michael, I'm 34, and I've spent the last decade building my construction business from nothing. Not inherited, not gifted, earned. Blood, sweat, and no shortage of setbacks. I started with a busted old Ford F-150 and a second-hand toolbox. Worked long days, sometimes longer nights. Eventually built up enough to manage 3 crews running projects across the county. My hands are scarred, calloused, not the kind you shake at a country club, but they're my story. Each nick and burn, a chapter. It's not glamorous. It's not flashy, but it's mine. Every inch of it. That last part, the ownership, was always the wedge between me and my parents, Richard and Eleanor. They were polished, controlled. Country club people with manicured lawns and expectations to match. They wanted a son who wore a suit, got an MBA, played golf on weekends. Not someone who smelled of sawdust and oil. They'd introduce me with that loaded sigh, "This is our son, Michael. He's in construction." As if I were confessing to a felony, not building homes for families. I spent 34 years trying to earn their approval. To be seen, not as the disappointment, but as the man who made something of himself. I even took money from them once, after college, when I was just getting started. Bought equipment, paid rent on my first workspace. They called it a business loan. I saw it as faith. Finally, a gesture of support. We never signed anything. No formal terms. Just a conversation over wine and roast lamb in their dining room. But over the years, I realized that money wasn't a gift. It was a leash they held tight. What I wanted more than anything was to hear my father say, "We're proud of you, son," just once. Instead, I got tolerance. Surface-level civility at holidays. The occasional nod of acknowledgement from across the room. Meanwhile, my sister Catherine? Oh, she was the prize. Business school. Powerhouse career. Married to a guy who said synergy, unironically. Everything they hoped I'd become. And I remember when I was 10, I built a birdhouse from scraps in the garage. Painted it blue, just like my favorite hoodie. I ran inside, covered in glue, proudly holding it up to my dad. He glanced at it, then at the mess I'd left on the porch, and muttered, "Clean this up." That moment, it stayed with me longer than he'll ever know. Then came the renovation. Mom and Dad decided to add a sunroom to their house, the one I'd grown up in. Dad called me one evening, his tone unusually soft. Asked if I'd consider overseeing the framing, given my expertise. They'd pay me, of course. It was the closest thing to respect I'd ever heard from them. My heart stupidly leapt. Maybe this was it, my chance to finally be seen. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. Offered them a discount. For family, I said, swallowing my hope like it was poison. I coordinated with the architect, got the demo going. It felt surreal to be walking through the house I once knew, tape measure in hand, adult now, competent, like maybe I had finally earned a place in their world. But something was off. They were too polite, jumpy, whispering in corners, taking calls in hushed tones, changing the subject whenever I entered the room. It all culminated in that garage moment. Their voices behind the door like knives. He's useless. Already working on it. And the lawyer says we can take back the business loan. In a flash, every Thanksgiving, every forced smile, every compromise I'd made for their acceptance turned to ash. I didn't say a word. Just walked in, grabbed the saw attachment, and walked out. My face calm. My heart shattered. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment in silence, my tools still in the truck, and let myself feel it. The grief of losing something I'd never really had. Their love, their trust, their respect. Then I called Mark, my old high school buddy turned real estate lawyer. I remember back in senior year, he defended me in a mock trial and wiped the floor with our valedictorian. I knew then, if I ever needed backup, it'd be Mark. He picked up immediately. Mike, everything okay? I told him everything. Every word I heard in that garage. Every bruise it left. There was a long silence. Then he said, "You sure you're ready to hit back?" I don't think I have a choice anymore. We stayed on the call for over an hour. He walked me through options, legal avenues, ways to protect myself. Said we should file a mechanics lien to stop the renovation cold. But Mike, he added, this isn't just legal. It's emotional warfare. You ready to go through with it? I looked at my hands. Calloused, steady. The same hands they dismissed. The same hands that built every inch of what they benefited from. Yeah, I whispered. I'm done playing the son. I'm going to be the builder. We got to work on paperwork. Then I remembered an old file I'd helped them store on their computer years ago. Dug into my cloud backup and found it. A draft document titled Michael Loan Terms, Internal Use. Unbelievable. It had clauses about interest rates, default triggers, even a note from my mother. Ensure this is enforceable in case of inheritance concerns. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a plan. We included that in the lien filing. By Monday, the messages started rolling in. First polite confusion, then outrage, then panic. Their image was cracking. The renovation had halted, permits frozen, builders gone. Even Catherine texted me, said I was overreacting, that I was hurting the family. But I wasn't hurting them. I was finally protecting myself.